أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, Alif, Lam, Ra. These are detached letters, alphabetical letters, which cannot be interpreted, and their meanings and semantics are known by Allah and His Apostle and special slaves and servants of Allah Rabbul Izzat. Tilka ayatul kitabil mubin. These are the verses of the explanatory book or illuminating book. Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyya. Verily we revealed it as an Arabic Quran. La'allakum ta'qilun, so that you may be able to understand it properly. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن. Now we are going to explain the best story to you. بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن, because we are going to reveal this Quran to you. فإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. And verily you were inattentive, you were indifferent, you were not paying your attention before it to this matter, to this story. إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر. Remember the time when Joseph said to his father, O my father, إني رأيت 11 كوكبا, verily I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon. رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ, I saw them prostrating themselves before me. قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ, he said, means the father said, Ya bunayya, O my darling. This is diminutive noun. La taqsus ru'yaka ala ikhwatika fayakidu laka kaida. So don't tell this dream to your brothers, lest they should devise an evil device against you. Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin, because the Satan is the obvious and proclaimed and avowed enemy of the human being. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And similarly, your Lord will choose you and will teach you the interpretations of the affairs. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ, and He will complete His bounties upon you. وَعَلَىٰ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ, and upon the family of Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ, as He has already completed the bounties upon your two fathers, means the father and grandfather, grandfather and great-grandfather, min qabl, before, Ibrahima wa Ishaq, Abraham and Isaac. Inna rabbaka alimun hakim, verily your Lord is all-knowing and all-wise. This is the verbal translation of the passage I recited before you. This surah is called Surah Yusuf, and it was revealed at Mecca. Surah is called surah because surah is the name for castle. A castle can be called a surah. Just like castle protects the contents inside, in the same way a surah protects and confines and fortifies the subject matter, the semantics, the meanings of the contents of a surah. And by means of a surah, all of the thematic value is confined and collected and concentrated by mean of a surah. This is a surah. This is why a surah is called surah. And this surah has got an historical and geographical background. Therefore, first of all, it is necessary for me to explain the geographical and historical background of this surah. This surah is fundamentally and basically containing the political affairs, the prophetic affairs, the family affairs, the powers affairs, the accidents, the incidents, the calamities, the adversities confronted by Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Therefore, the biography of Joseph and his father Jacob and his grandfather Isaac and his great-grandfather Ibrahim, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, is necessary to explain. Abraham was fundamentally resident of Iraq. He was born to a family, according to the archaeological material discovered nowadays, is called Ur. Ur is a family which was belonging to the party in power, the governmental party, and he was a member of the well-to-do family, and they were very prosperous, very rich, very powerful, and politically they had got a very matchless weight in the society of Iraq. But when he proclaimed for his prophethood, he had to face many difficulties created by the sovereign of the country. You must have already listen all of the details concerning with Ibrahim, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. He had to migrate from Iraq to Palestine. There is a place, there is a population nowadays that is called Hebron. Ibrahim ﷺ resided there, and he populated the area, and he possessed the land as an owner of the area, and that is believed to be the residential area of Ibrahim ﷺ. And then Isaac was born to him from the womb of Sarah. Sarah was the first wife of Ibrahim, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And after a long time, he was born to him, and he was named as Isaac. And Isaac also resided there. And then two twins were born to him. One was Isa, Ain, Ya, and Swad. And Alif is written in the shape of Waw, just like Zakat and Salat. And they were twins. And Jacob means coming afterwards. Since he was born after his brother, therefore he is named after his action as Jacob. Otherwise his name is known in Islamic studies as Israel. Isra means Abd, means servant. Il means Allah. And Israel means Abdullah. His proper name is Israel, and his title is Jacob. And he, according to the allusions of the Holy Quran and the express provisions of the Bible and Talmud, he had got married with 4 wives, and he had 12 children. Two, Joseph and Benjamin, was from one wife, and the other ones were from different wives. Thus he had 12 sons. And the most beloved to him was Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was reported to have been born to him near about 1906 BC, before Christ. And when he was near about 17 or 18 years, he was put to the well by his brother, because his brother was very jealous to him on account of their prejudice and their jealousy. They devised a conspiracy against Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, and they requested their father to send him along with them, and he consented and agreed and conceded to their proposal, and they took him away according to their conspiracy, and they cast him in the well. And that well is found nowadays as well in Dothan, D-O-T-H-E-N, Dothan. That is very near to Shankum. Shankum is a place which was a property of Abraham, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And after that was possessed by Isaac, and after that it was possessed by and owned by Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And that well was very near to the Shechem, at the place of Dothan. And these 3 places are found in the area of Palestine. And the community and the trading caravan who picked him up was coming back from Gilead, 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 that in Transjordan, that is in the area of Transjordan. And they were coming back from Transjordan towards Egypt, and during the journey they happened to see him in the well through their water carrier, and they picked him up out of the well. And he was taken to Memphis. Memphis was capital of Egypt in those days, and that was very near to the bank of river Nile, Memphis. And the king of those days was Apophis, a representative of Amalekites. And they are known in English history as Hyksos. Hyksos means shepherds, since they had come from the same area as Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, came from. Therefore, they used to be called, according to the terminology of Egyptian people, as Hyksos, means shepherds, looking after the goats, the sheep. And Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, stayed in the palace of Al-Aziz, the vicegerent of the country, near about more or less 3 years. And then he was sent to the jail. He was imprisoned by the then judiciary. In spite of his immunity, infallibility, he was completely innocent person, yet he was convicted and he was charged on the charge of, he was arrested on the charge of the fornication, commission of adultery, and he was put to the jail, and he stayed there near about 9 years. And when he came back, he was near about 30, more or less 30 years, and he came to power in 30 years, and he ruled near about 80 years. And after 10 years of his power, his rule, he called for his brother and all of his family to Egypt from the desert, and from the Canaan, the desert of Canaan. He called for his brother, for his family, along with his father and mother. And according to the reliable traditions, his mother was alive, though there are traditions which are saying that his real mother had died. But according to the very authenticated and reliable sources, especially Imaduddin ibn Qadir, he refers to the fact that his real mother was alive, and there is no proof for the death of his mother. And according to the express provision of the Holy Quran, they were his father and mother, and there is no reason to believe without any evidence that his mother had died. Therefore, we should believe that his father and real mother came there. And he populated his family at the place of Goshen, Goshen, Goshen. This is area on the bank of river, and they populated the area, and they remained there up to the time of Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And then a very nationalist, bigot and very prejudiced movement came into the power, and they toppled, and they threw all of the powers of the time, and they came in power, and they were very prejudiced, and they began to coerce, and they began to persecute the Israelites, and consequently Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, came in power, and he was raised as a prophet, and he confronted Pharaoh of the time, and Alhamdulillah, he conquered the game, and he succeeded in the emancipation of Israelites, and he made them migrate from Egypt to the desert of Sinai, and then to the Palestine. And Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, passed away in the age of 120 years, and at the time of death he bound his community and his kith and kins that they should bury him, but embalm him in the area of Egypt, and while going back they were duty bound to dig out his shrine, or to take his coffin along with them and communicate it to the cemetery of his forefather and his family, and the sacred persons who were buried in near about or around Baitul Maqdis Sharif, and he should be buried along with his forefathers. So this shows that it was already known to Joseph ﷺ that sooner or later they will have to leave the country, and they will have to migrate from Egypt to their native country. And at that time, he was in position to make a will about his burial. And there was a coffin of marble, and he was put in the river of Nile. He was put in the river of Nile, but the river of Nile was not in position to destroy the body of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And this is why one can transfer the dead body of a person from one place to other place, certain religious reasons. So according to his will, the dead body of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon, after a century, was transferred from Egypt to Baitul Maqdis Sharif. So this is a simple history and geographical situation and historical situation of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And this is a proof of the fact that if a person likes himself to be buried in the adjacent place of the sacred persons, so it is lawful. One should believe like that, and one has got a legitimate right to be buried according to his will, because this will was practiced by his kith and kins. And when they migrated from Egypt to Baitul Maqdis, they brought his coffin with them, and they buried him according to the will of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. So this is a statement of Prophet, that he knew that his body would not be destroyed. His body would not be decayed. His body would not be rotten. His body would remain safe and sound. And none of the earth to eat or to destroy or to endanger the body of a Prophet. Inna Allah harrama ala al-ardi an ta'kula ajsad al-anbiya. Allah Rabbul Izzat has forbidden all of the insects of the earth to damage the body of the prophets. The bodies of the prophets are known to all of the creatures. No creature is allowed to damage the body of the prophet. It means that prophet is a prophet when he is alive, and prophet is a prophet when he dies, and prophet is a prophet when he is buried. And it was not only one example established by Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, but in the same way, when Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was ordained by Allah to be died. So Israel was sent to Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, and there is a long procedure, a long detail which is not necessary to be mentioned here, but ultimately when he conceded to the causing of death, so he requested Israel to cause his death when he is near about 2 stones away from the shrines of his forefathers. Means he should die when he is near to the shrine of his forefathers. It means that shrines are respectable and they are taken for a blessing things. Just like Quran says, Subhanallazi asra bi'abdihi min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa allazi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa as-sami'ul basir. Allah Kareem says that a person, that entity is very glorified, who made his friend or his slave, his servant, to make a journey during the night of ascension from the mosque of Haram up to the mosque of Temple, Baitul Maqdis Sharif, Allazi barakna hawlahu, which was the surroundings of which were blessed. So what is the blessing of that area? Mean the shrines of the prophets are a blessing to the Baitullah Sharif as well. The mosque is Baitullah with Izafat Tashrifi. Mosque is Baitullah, and Baitullah is being blessed by the shrines of the sacred persons. It means that this ideology is Islamic one, that a place can attain the blessing or sacredness by means of the shrines of the pious persons. This is why Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, have been reported by Imam Bukhari, by Imam Muslim, to request Israel to cause his death nearby the shrine of his forefather, means Jacob alayhi salam. Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Isaac, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. So this is an Islamic tendency and a spiritual tendency and a prophetic attitude to take the refuge in the adjacent place of the sacred persons. So this is the historical and geographical background of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And this is why his ascendancy towards the power was not hated and was not rejected by the population, because the previous kings, Hyksos, were also immigrants. They had migrated from that very area, and they got a chance to establish their independent state, because there was a feuds and there were disputes and strifes and confusion among the population, since the local people were involved in a dispute. Therefore the foreigners got a chance to establish their independent country, their independent state. But when Joseph came there, it was not taken to be a foreigner or a stranger person, because the previous state was maintained and was ruled over by the foreigners. Therefore foreigners was not taken to be a stranger person to them. So they have got coordination. They had got a coordination with each other. Therefore the power of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was promptly accepted by the local government. And then the rough idea of this surah, the time of revelation shows the contents of the surah. When Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was in the last period of his residence at Mecca, the infidels, the pagans of Mecca, were very violent, very militant against Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. And they were devising in those days to kill him, or to exile him, or to imprison him. These three devices and measures were being thought over by the pagans, and these same three things were attempted by the brother of Joseph. The story of Joseph and the story of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam has got coordination with each other. They have got analogy, the resemblance, the similarity with each other. And Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was not intended to say even a single word, as Quran says, وَإِن كُنْتَ مِن قَبْلِهِ لَبِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ, meaning you were not going to pay any attention to the facts, to the contents of the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, because you had nothing to do with the story of Joseph, because the addressee, the responsible before you, were the residents of Mecca, Meccan people, Meccan infidels, Meccan pagans, idolaters of Mecca. So there was no any need to be realized about the mention of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And according to the chronology of the Holy Quran, doesn't say that even a single word was stated about Joseph alayhi salatu wasalam before the introduction of this surah. This surah was introduced under special circumstances. Otherwise they were Israelites, and Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was propagating for his message at Mecca, and the direct responsible and addressee of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam were Meccan pagans of Mecca. Therefore it was not appropriate on his part to touch such a thing which was not relevant with the affairs of Meccan people. So according to the instigation of Jewish scholars, they suggested to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam to say something about the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And the historical and the commentatorial material shows that Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was sitting at his home, and there was no any context about the revelation of this surah. All of a sudden an offer was made, a request was made on behalf of the infidels of Mecca. Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was invited in their special meeting. there was intertribal meeting of Meccan people, and all of the people residing of the suburban area were also invited to participate in the meeting. And that was a conspiracy constituted against Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam, just to defy, just to dishonor and to defame Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. And they thought that the material and the contents of Joseph, may grace and the peace of Allah be upon him, and the story of migration of Israelites from Canaan to Egypt was a special topic and a special science of Judaism or Christianity. It was completely close to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam never touched the subject. Therefore they thought that when Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam would be asked for the detail of the story of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, he would try to evade the fact. He would try to avoid. And then if he is insisted upon, he will have to tell something, and he will ask for the respite, for the reprievement. And if the reprievement would be granted to him, he will have to resort to a Jewish scholar. And Jewish scholars were not his confidant. Therefore they would disclose everything asked by Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam to the infidels, and thus Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam would be exposed and would be dishonored, and his prophecy, his prophethood would be dishonored. Because according to the criterion maintained by the common people of the then period, they believed that a person not knowing the unseen secret cannot be included in the community of the prophets. Prophet at least should know the unseen secret. When a common person is also does not know the unseen secret, and the prophet is also in the same position, so when they have got equality in every respect, what is the reason for Allah to select a person for the prophethood? Because there should be any reason for the preference, any reason for the priority. So the first priority for the prophet is in respect of knowledge of unseen secret. When he knows unseen secret, he looks to be eligible person to be raised as a prophet. So according to their information, the story of Joseph alayhi salatu wasalam was not communicated to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam, and it was never mentioned in the tradition of Arab as well. It was never mentioned at Makkah. In total traditions and literature of the then period can be located nowadays and can be searched out. Even a single word was not said about Joseph alayhi salatu wasalam before the revelation of this surah. So he was invited in the community of non-Muslims in the meeting, which was held on the basis of the intertribal population. The companions of the Prophet were of the view that he should not go there, because they must have constituted a conspiracy to endanger the life of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam rejected the proposals made by the companions. He said, Inni alamu minallahi ma la ta'lamun. You don't know what I know on behalf of my Lord, therefore you should keep quiet, and I will have to accept the invitation, and I will have to participate in the meeting. So Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam, according to his own will, he participated. And all of the chiefs of suburban areas were also present there, and without any context, without any introduction, they asked Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam for the explanation of the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And according to reliable sources, the revelation was on. As soon as they questioned Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam, the revelation began. And Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam kept on stating all of the details concerning with Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. But look, when the story was mentioned, the things which were not relevant with the legal aspect, or with the ideological aspect, or with any other informative or educative any learning subject, all of them were neglected. Just like you ask a lawyer to summarize or to concise a statement, he will collect all of the facts relevant with the legal aspect. Since Prophet is a prophet, he is not a historian, he collected all of the matters concerning with the legal aspect or the ideological aspect or other teaching aspects. Nabi Kareem Alayhi Salam told them that he was a person, he was a very beautiful person, he was a lovely person, he was loved by his father, and he was conspired against by his brothers, just like you are conspiring against me. And you are devising so many devices to endanger my life. In the same way, he was also tried to be endangered, and to be damaged. And your story is just an analog, a similar fact to the life of those people. And then he was cast. He was cast in the well, just like you are trying to assassinate me, or to exile me, to banish me, or to imprison me. He was also treated like that. But all of a sudden, a trading caravan came there, and they took him out from the well, and they sold it in the market. Means I shall also migrate from here. This was very bold and very clear prophecy and prediction about the future. Means you are asking me for the explanation to explain the facts relevant with Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, and I am going to propagate for my message in the shape of his events, his history. So this is a prominent intelligence of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam. And then he was sold in the market as a slave, and he was enslaved. And you are also trying me to send in a country to be enslaved like Joseph. But when he was enslaved, in spite of the fact that he was enslaved, he was put in a palace. Means though I am going to migrate from this country, I am going to leave Mecca for Medina Tayyibah, but I would not be enslaved, because according to the apparent and superficial situation, Nabi Kareem was going to be enslaved. According to their presumption, the migration of Muhammad Mustafa was in slavery. But God knows better. God say, and Nabi Kareem explained all of the facts relevant with his own situation and with the situation of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And all of the futurity was disclosed and explained. And the end of the pagans of Makkah were also shown in the shape of the verses of the Holy Quran containing in Surah Joseph. And then you are believing me to be leaving the country just for in slavery, but I am not going to be so, because Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was involved, was incriminated for a moral crime, and he was arrested on the charge of adultery, in spite of the fact that he was totally innocent and immune person. His immunity was not believed, was not accepted, though they knew that he was properly an innocent person. He was put in the jail, and after 9 years he came back. But I shall not spend 9 years, I shall come in the 8th year, and I shall topple and overthrow your powers. And at the last, when the brothers who made him migrate from the country, and they exiled him from the country, and they deprived him of the facility of the company of parents and family, and all of the facilities provided with the native country, by the native country, you are also going to deprive me of my total facilities. And consequently, Joseph overthrew all of the powers, and his brothers had to humble themselves in front of him, and they had to prostrate themselves in front of Joseph, you will also have to prostrate before me. You will also have humble yourself in front of me, but I shall not let you down. I shall never let you prostrate yourself in front of me. But just like Joseph said, La tasriba alaykum al-yawm, I shall also say. So it happened like the prophecy of Muhammad Mustafa as it was predicted by Muhammad Mustafa that the time is going to come, and the time will come that you would be humble and meek and very poor and helpless in front of me, and I would in position to forgive you or to penalize you. But just according to the tradition of Joseph ﷺ, I would also say, La tasriba alaykum al-yawm antum talaqa. Today you would not be taken to task, and no action would be taken against you, and you are completely free. Antum talaqa means, according to the tradition of the history, they were liable to be enslaved by Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ, but he did not enslave them. Instead, he said, you are my brother. You are my brother. You can live wherever you like in the country, and you enjoy your rights, and you would not be deprived of your rights. You deprived me of my rights, but I am not going to deprive you of your rights. So this is the introduction of this surah. Inshallah, in the next chapter, I shall give the commentary on the passage I recited before you. In the last, I shall pray for all of the Muslims and Muslim countries. May Muslim country be prosperous and may achieve their goals of life, and may all of the Muslims struggling for the independence and freedom may be freed by Allah Rabbul Izzat, and may have a success in their goals of their life. And I shall pray for the total Muslim. May Muslim unite themselves under the flag of Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ. May Muslim be able to follow the Sunnah of Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ. So this is my message of today. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وَالصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَى رَسُولِهِ الْكَرِيمِ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ بِرَحْمَتِهِ.
रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अल्लाह ताला के फजल करम, नबी करीम रऊफ़ुर रहीम अलैहिस्सलाम की निगाह अनायत से आज हमारा 30वां रोज़ा है। अल्लाह ताला हमारे रोज़ों और नमाज़ों को अपनी बारगाह में मंजूर और मकबूल फरमा ले। आज जुम्मतुल विदा भी है और रमज़ानुल मुबारक जो अल्लाह की तरफ से हमारे यहाँ अपनी बरकतें और रहमतें लेके आया हुआ था, ये अल्लाह की तरफ से आया हुआ मेहमान हमसे अलविदा हो रहा है। अलविदा हो अलविदा या शाहर रमज़ान अलविदा। ये अज़मत और बरकत वाला महीना अपनी रहमतें और बरकतें समेट कर हमसे रवाना हो रहा है। रब्बुल इज़्ज़त अपने महबूब अलैहिस्सलाम के सदके वसीले से ज़िंदगी में फिर हमें ये मौका नसीब फरमाए कि हम रमज़ानुल मुबारक के रोज़े रख सकें। अल्लाह नबी पाक अलैहिस्सलाम के जिन खुश नसीबों ने इस रमज़ानुल मुबारक में रमज़ान के तक़द्दुस को बरकरार रखते हुए दिन को रोज़ा रखा, रात को कुरान सुना, नमाज तरावीह अदा की, और कुछ खुश नसीबों ने नबी करीम अलैहिस्सलाम की सुन्नत पर अमल पैरा होकर मोतकिफ भी रहे। अल्लाह उन सब की इबादत और रियाजत मंजूर और मकबूल फरमा ले, और कल क़यामत में कुरान, रमज़ान और साहिब कुरान की शफात नसीब फरमाएँ। मैं इससे पेशतर कि हज़रत क़िबला मुफ़क्किर इस्लाम पीर तरीक़त अल्लामा सैयद अब्दुल क़ादिर शाह साहब गिलानी दरस कुरान के लिए तशरीफ़ लाएँ। मैं पाकिस्तानी चैनल की तरफ से आपको हज़ार तशक्कर पेश करता हूँ कि आपने पूरा महीना अपने कीमती वक्त से नाज़रीन के लिए वक्त निकाला और कुरानी तालीमात को आम करने के लिए इस्लाम की तरवीज व आशात में एक नुमायाँ और मौसर किरदार अदा किया। अल्लाह रब्बुल इज़्ज़त आपके इल्मी फैज़ान में मज़ीद बरक़ात अता फरमाए और आपका साया हम पे कायम और दायम रखे। और उसके साथ ही अल्लाह रब्बुल इज़्ज़त इस पाकिस्तानी चैनल को जो दियारे गैर में इस्लाम और पाकिस्तान के नाम को रोशन कर रहा है, अल्लाह ताला इसे दिन दुगनी रात चौगनी तरक्की अता फरमाए और हम सब को इस्लाम की तरवीज व आशात में मसरूफ़ अमर रहने की तौफीक अता फरमाए। आप तशरीफ़ लाते हैं मुफक्किर इस्लाम, पीर तरीक़त अल्लामा सैयद अब्दुल कादिर शाह साहब गिलानी कुरान मुक़द्दस की तिलावत और तर्जमा फरमाने के बाद उसकी तफसीर फरमाते हैं। आइए आपके इल्मी और रूहानी खताब से फैज़ याब होते हैं।
अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अलिफ लाम रा तिल्का आयातुल किताबिल मुबीन। इन्ना अंज़लनाहु क़ुरआनन अरबिय्यन लअल्लकुम तअक़िलून। नहनु नक़ुस्सु अलैका अहसनल क़ससि बिमा औहैना इलैका हाज़ल क़ुरआन व इन कुन्त मिन क़ब्लिही लमिनल गाफ़िलीन। इज़ क़ाल यूसुफ़ लिअबीहि या अबति इन्नी रअयतु अहद अशर कौकबन वश्शम्स वल्क़मर रअयतुहुम ली साजिदीन। क़ाल या बुनय्य ला तक़्सुस रु'याक अला इख़्वतिक फ़यकीदू लक कैदा। इन्नश-शैतान लिल-इंसानि अदुव्वुम मुबीन। वकज़ालिक यज्तबीक रब्बुक वयुअल्लिमुक मिन तअवीलिल अहादीस वयुतिम्मु निअमतहु अलैक वअला आलि याक़ूब कमा अतम्महा अला अबवैक मिन क़ब्लु इब्राहीम व इसहाक़। इन्न रब्बक अलीमुल हकीम। सदक़ल्लाहु मौलानल अज़ीम व बल्लगना रसूलुहुन नबियुल करीम व नहनु अला ज़ालिका मिनश शाहिदीन वश्शाकिरीन वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन। अल्लाह जल्ल जलालुहु व अम्म नवालुहु सईस Alif, Lam, Ra. These are Uruf Muqatta'at, detached letters, alphabetical letters which cannot be interpreted. Their meanings, their semantics, and their themes are known by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and His Apostle and the pious special people. Tilka ayatul kitabil mubin. These are the verses of the explanatory books, are illuminating books. Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyya. Verily, we revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you may be able to understand it. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We are going to explain the best story to you. بِمَا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ, because we are going to reveal this Quran to you. وَإِن كُنْتَ مِن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. And verily you have been inattentive, not paying any attention to this story before this revelation. Is qala Yusufu li abihi. Remember the time when Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, said to his father, Ya abate. This tha, the ya was changed with the tha, otherwise it was Ya abi. That ya was changed according to a reliable principle in the Occidences. This is the purpose of invocation. Ra'aytu ahada ashara, maqsood bin nida, which is called maqsood bin nida. The purpose of invocation, the purpose of address. Ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaba. I saw 11 stars. Was shamsa, and the sun, wal qamara, and the moon. Ra'aytuhum li sajidin. I have seen them to be prostrating before me, to be prostrating themselves in front of me. Qala ya bunayya. He said, means Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, said in response, in the answer, Ya bunayya, O my darling, La taqsus ru'yaka ala ikhwatik. So don't tell this story to your brothers. فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا, lest they should constitute an evil measure or an evil device against you. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Verily, the Satan is an avowed, proclaimed, open, and announced enemy of mankind. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. And similarly, your Lord will choose you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ. And teach you مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. The interpretations of the affairs. وَيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. And will complete His bounty upon you. وَعَلَىٰ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. And upon the family of Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ. As He has already completed them, mean the blessings, the bounties. عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ. Upon your two fathers, min qabl, before this. Ibrahim wa Ishaq, they are a positive of Abawai, since that is in accusative order accusative case, therefore the oppositive, both of the oppositors are maintained in the same case. Inna Rabbaka Alimun Hakim, verily your Lord is all-knowing and all-wise. This is the verbal translation along with the conversational and idiomatic translation of the passage I recited before you. Now I would like to explain the logical rationality of the beginning of this surah with the end of the previous surah. Quran says in the previous surah, this is a necessity of the commentary, exegetical commentary on the Holy Quran, that every end of the beginning surah must be coordinated with the end of the previous surah. The previous surah, the end of the previous surah has got something with the beginning of the following surah, subsequent surah, because the order of the verses was arranged by Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam by himself, and the logical rationality of their respective order was maintained and was thought of by Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam himself. Therefore, no question can be raised against the logical rationality of every verse with every other verse. But the arrangement of surah was maintained by the discretion of the companions of the Prophet. Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti died in 911 AH, has written a book on this very topic that is called Tartibu Suwar. In that book he explains that all of the surahs were arranged according to the discretionary power of the companions of the Prophet. Means they thought that there was a coordination between the end of a surah with the beginning of the subsequent surah. Therefore, every surah was arranged after the other surah except the beginning one, which is introductory one, which is called Fatiha. Here, Quran tells here, Wantaziru inna minal muntazirun, means wait. You wait, we are also waiting. Means, O Meccan people, you are trying to exile me, to banish me from the country, and I shall tell you, this will tell upon your health, and all of the tables will be turned upon you, and you will have to suffer the consequences of your bad intention and bad designs, and you cannot avoid the vengeance going to be taken upon you by Allah Rabbul Izzat. He will take the revenge on you. وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, since it was a matter concerning with the unseen secret, and the infidels of Meccan were more likely to win the game, to win the race, to win the competition. They thought that it was not possible superficially for Muhammad Mustafa to subjugate them, to conquer them. Allah says this is the matter of clairvoyance. This is a matter of knowledge of unseen secret. وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, the unseen secret of the heavens and the earth are completely known to Allah Rabbul Izzat, and He is telling very accurately about the consequences which are going to be suffered by you, and you cannot avoid the bad end of your life. And it will depend on the pleasure of Muhammad Mustafa whether he would like to penalize you or to forgive you. وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُ الْأَمْرُ كُلُّهُ, and all of the matters are concerning with Allah Rabbul Izzat in respect of their end. فَعَبُدْهُ, O my Holy Prophet, this was the address to the infidels of Makkah, and you are my beloved, now I address you. وَعَبُدْهُ وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَيْهِ, فَعَبُدْهُ وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَيْهِ, O my Holy Prophet, your duty is to worship me. Your duty is to maintain your genuine and sincere relations with me, and it is my job to topple them, to overthrow them, and the world will see that they will be toppled. You are all alone. They never expect you to topple their power, their aristocracy is too powerful to be toppled by a single person. But this is their misunderstanding. Allah is omnipotent. He can do whatever He likes. And I like your power. I would like you to topple them, to overthrow them. And the intention and designs are always fulfilled by Allah Rabbul Izzat, and nobody can foil them. Nobody can make them fail. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. O infidels of Mecca, Allah is not unaware of your activities. Your activities are completely visible to Allah Rabbul Izzat, and He will take the revenge on you. When such a things were mentioned here, that the infidels of Mecca was going to be overthrown by the Holy Prophet, it has got a similarity with the story of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, that single Joseph were not likely to topple and to overthrow the 10 persons who were prevalent in the country, in the area, who were enjoying the legislature, the judiciary, the executive, whatever was there. And Hazrat Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, thought to be underage, and they were not expecting Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, to overthrow them all. Allah says, as Joseph was all alone, and he succeeded in throwing them off, and he was in position to overthrow them, to topple them. In the same way, you would be in position to overthrow them. This is the coordination on account of which this surah was arranged here. The beginning of this surah has got a relationship, a very rational type of relation with the previous surah. And the time of revelation of this surah is can be concluded, can be inferred from the contents of the surah that it was the last period of residence of Muhammad Mustafa in Mecca, because the activities recorded by the Holy Quran on behalf of the infidels of Mecca show that it was the last part of his residence at Mecca. And they were trying to, only three things are to imprison Muhammad Mustafa, as to banish or exile Muhammad Mustafa, as to assassinate him, to kill him. Killing, exiling, and imprisoning. These three devices were devised, and these three evil designs were constituted by the Meccan people. And in those very days, they hit upon a thought that Muhammad should be challenged in the field of unseen secret. His clairvoyance should be checked, because according to the established criterion and standard, it was necessary for the Prophet to qualify the examination of unseen secret. Unless one knows the unseen secret, unless one is clairvoyant, one cannot be considered to have been qualified person as a prophet. And in this connection, they had to resort the Jewish scholar. They went to the Jewish scholar and consulted them, and they conferred them about the test of Muhammad Mustafa. According to the Jewish material, it was the hardest trial or ordeal for Muhammad Mustafa to give the details about the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, because there was no printing press, because printing press was invented by Caxton in the 7th century of Christian era, and the paper industry was installed by Abbasids in 3rd century of Islamic era. So there was no question of paper, no question of printing press. Therefore, the book means the manuscript which is under the monopoly of the non-Muslims, and there was no even a single reference to the history of Joseph ﷺ in the traditions and in the conventions of Arab. So, according to their suggestion, the infidels and pagans of Mecca came to the conclusion that it was very nice and suitable point for Muhammad Mustafa to be tested with. So they called a meeting on the level of intertribal area. All of the tribes residing in the adjacent area of Mecca were also invited, and all of the aristocrats of the country and the total aristocracy of the country was also invited in the meeting of that conspiracy. And the question was going to be furnished in front of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. In the meanwhile, the companions of the Holy Prophet came to know that Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam was going to be tested by the infidels about the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, and about the emigration of the children of Israel from Canaan to Egypt. And it was a very complicated question for Arab because they had got nothing to do with this history. It was very complicated for Muhammad Mustafa to solve. So they came to Nabi Kareem alayhi salam, they contacted him and they consulted him, and they told him that it was not appropriate on the part of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam to go there. Nabi Kareem alayhi salam said, why? They said they must have constituted a very fatal, very disastrous conspiracy against you. They may endanger your body, yourself, and your honor. Therefore, it is advisable for us to avoid the meeting. Nabi Kareem alayhi salam told them that he would go there because he knew on behalf of Allah what was not known to them. So when the knowledge of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam could not be checked by Siddiq Akbar, by Farooq Azam, by Usman Ghani, by Haider Karar, who were the closest persons to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam, when the knowledge of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam could not be measured by the closest person who is there to check or to survey the knowledge of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam. So Nabi Kareem alayhi salam wanted to participate in the meeting. So he went there when all of the representative of the 20 tribes residing in Mecca and the other tribes were also represented by their representatives in the meeting, and the question was put about the explanation of the history of Israelites from Canaan to Egypt. Nabi Kareem alayhi salam without any hesitation began to say, because the revelation was on. Gabriel began to reveal all of the facts relevant with the story of, with the history of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. So all of the infidels were taken aback because it was totally against their expectation. They were not expecting Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam to tell the story with this detail. So they were really very surprised. All of the story was going to be explained by Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam, but many facts were neglected by Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam, because just like you give a file of a case to a lawyer and he check all of the statements made by the evidence, by the police or by the other relevant persons, and he will concise it, he will summarize it within a few points, within a few lines, because he knows the facts, the items concerning with the legal aspect of the case. Nabi Kareem alayhi salam, being a prophet, was aware of the facts which were relevant with the ideological aspect or the legal aspect or the concerning with the eschatological aspect. Eschatology means the events, the affairs which are going to happen after death, before the resurrection. Barzakh is called eschatology. The things which were concerning with the eschatology or the resurrection or the judgment day are relevant with the ideology or the practice or the devotional or the liturgical activities were collected and were summed up by Muhammad Mustafa, and the total story was explained by Muhammad Mustafa from top to bottom, and the moral achieved which was necessary to be achieved, to be learned by the human being or by the audience, was mostly neglected by the Jewish scholars. But Nabi Kareem led his emphasis on the learning of the lesson, on the achieving the moral, because the statement would be useless when you are not going to learn the lesson. The lesson to be learned by the listener was to achieve the important points of the history of Joseph ﷺ to be followed for the reformation of the life, for the reformation of the society, for the reformation of the morals, for the reformation of the practice, for the reformation of the daily life. So these are the main points which were necessary to be achieved from the statement of Joseph, from the statement of Muhammad Mustafa, relevant to Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Quran says these are the verses of explanatory books. As Quran says, Nazzalna alayka al-kitab tibyanan likulli shay. The main purpose of the revelation of the Holy Quran is to disclose everything to you. Everything is going to be explained to you, O my Holy Prophet, since you are to maintain the law and order of the total universe, and you are the person to look after the total universe on behalf of Allah. Wherever Allah is Allah, you are a prophet, and everybody is duty bound to identify you and to recognize you and to pay the respect to you. Therefore, it is your duty to explain every item of the life, because you are the prophet of total universe. Therefore, a comprehensive knowledge of the total universe should be communicated to you. This is the policy matter of Allah Rabbul Izzat. Because unquestioning obedience of a prophet is necessary for the total universe wherever he is sent to. Since Nabi Kareem was sent to every item of the universe, therefore he should have been in the knowledge of every item of the universe. Al-Kitabul Mubin means explanatory book. It explains the daily life, the whole life, the life of this world, the eschatological life, the spiritual life, the physical life, the life which is going to be granted to the human being after the resurrection, after the judgment day, and the life of the paradise. All of the things were mentioned here. And in other ways, for instance, the moral, the personal moral, the behavior towards the family, the behavior to the co-villagers, the behavior towards the co-countrymen, the behavior to the total society, the personal life, the tribal life, the national life, the international life. All of the things are dealt with by the Quran with the way of principle, with the way of major premises, not item by item. All of the things were put under the major premises, and major premises can be utilized by the scholar. This is why Nabi Kareem asked his total ummah to learn from 7 persons who were educated by Muhammad Mustafa himself, and they were authorized to teach the total Muslim community. This is why everybody is not eligible to preach for Islam, because preaching of Islam requires an accurate knowledge. Unless one has an accurate knowledge, he is not competent to deliver the message. Delivery of message requires a comprehensive knowledge of the items he is going to express. And these books deals with the personal law, with the family law, and deals with the matrimonial law. The matrimonial law was also expressed in the Holy Quran. And law of guardian, law of divorce, matrimonial law, how to deal with the wives, how to look after the sons, how to pay the respect of parents. This is the family life. The maintenance law, so much so that the parents are also competent to file a case to demand for the maintenance, just like offsprings are competent to file a case for the entertainment, for the maintenance. In the same way, the parents are also competent when they are too old and they are in need to be looked after, and the offspring are earning, they are serving the society, they are earning the money, they are dealing in a business, but they are not paying any maintenance to their parents. According to Islamic law, they are duty bound to pay the respect in addition to their maintenance. And if they are not willing to pay the maintenance, according to Islamic judiciary, the parents are competent to file a case against the offspring, and they can derive the maintenance by court as well, through court as well. So in this respect, Quran deals with the matrimonial law, with the family law, with the criminal law, with the civil law, with the international law, with the law of inheritance. Look, this is only one book, and was compiled by a person who was not educated anywhere in any school. Being an uneducated person, it is miraculous quality. It is supernatural, superhuman, that he has got a comprehensive knowledge. He can maintain the law and order of the total continents and subcontinents and the earth and the sky, and he can deal and he can judge all of the cases according to the divine law. So in this respect, this book is very comprehensive. This is why Allah said, tilka ayatul kitabil mubin. These are the verses of explanatory book. If you mean the illuminating book, means it illuminates, it gives the light. It gives the light to your heart, to your eye. It will illuminate in your society. As Nabi Kareem was reported to have said, "Oh, alayka ya Aba Zarrin, alayka bitalabat al-Quran, fa innahu nurun laka fil ardi wa zukhrun laka fis sama." O Abu Zar, it is your duty to recite the Holy Quran with the proper way, with the observation of attributes, syllables, and phonetics, and intonation, and stresses, and rhythm, and tone. Everything should be observed by you. The more you try to be accurate in the recitation of the Holy Quran, the more blessings would be sent down to you. فَإِنَّهُ نُورٌ لَكَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. This is a light. This Quran is illuminating. This is a light for you in the earth, and it is a preservative. It is a treasure, preserved treasure on the sky for you. And you would be rewarded for that one, because on the judgment day, the Quran would be adduced in the court of Allah as a witness, and it provided with the witness in the court of Allah, whether in favor or against. May the Muslim be in a position to learn the Holy Quran with the proper way, so that he may be able to achieve the evidence of the Holy Quran in their favor. In both of the respects, this Quran is a light, and giving the light to you, illuminating for you. Imam Jelani Suyuti rahmatullah wrote a book with the name of Sharh Sudur fi Awal al-Mawt wal-Qabur. He writes that once upon a time was going to dig out a grave in the area of Uhud Sharif, and all of a sudden there was a lump of mud fell down, lump of mud fell down, and there was a hole, and there was a light inside, and somebody was sitting inside of that pit or that grave, and he was reciting the Holy Quran, and that was the light of the Holy Quran, and he himself was reading the Holy Quran. This book is illuminating one. All of a sudden, when he came to know that somebody was digging there, he was surprised. He asked him whether judgment day was held. He said, no, there is no judgment day, no resurrection. Then he said, close up the hole, and don't disclose me, and let me do my work. So this Quran is illuminating one. The more you recite the Holy Quran, your face would be illuminated. For this meaning, This is illuminating book. Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'qilun. And we revealed this one an Arabic Quran. Since the story of Joseph was recorded in Hebrew by the Jews, and it was not disclosed to the Muslims, and Arab civilization was not aware from the traditions of Israelites. Material was monopolized, was confined to themselves, and they were not ready to disclose anything to anybody in the world about themselves. It was their policy. One's policy cannot be challenged. One's policy is framed by oneself. Therefore, none of the items was known about the history of Joseph to the Arab people. Arab civilization was totally unaware of the fact. Quran says, when it was explained in the language of Hebrew, so we are going to explain it in Arabic just to make you understand, because there is a policy matter by Allah Rabbul Izzat. Ma arsalna mir rasulin illa bilasani qawmihi liyubayyin lahum. No prophet was sent but with the native language of the people to whom he was sent, because it is very difficult for a person to make one understand without knowledge of his own language. So one can properly make one understand when there is a coordination of the language. So being a prophet, it was necessary for Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ to know the language of those persons to whom he was sent. Since Nabi Kareem ﷺ was international and universal one, Tabarakallazi nazzal al-furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamina nazira. The more blessful is the entity who sent the Holy Quran on his servant, who is warning for the total universe. There are two titles of a prophet, Bashiram wa Naziran, giving the glad tidings about the obtaining of paradise for the obedient people, and serving a warning for the violator of the law. These are two titles for every prophet, and they contain the two different policies: the persuasive policy, the imperative policy. The policy of persuasion is Bashir, comes under the title of Bashir, and the imperative policy comes under the title of Nazir. So it means that the prophet has two types of gear. He can persuade the people. He can prepare them with option, and the other policy, he can compel them. But most of the time the imperative policy was neglected. Just like Abu Jahl was not going to embrace Islam, but imperative policy was not adopted. The other individuals of Makkah could have been compelled by Allah himself. Allah was in a position to compel them, but Allah did not compel. And the imperative policy as a Nazir was also given to the Prophet, but the Prophet did not compel them. It means that both of the policies are on the option of the Prophet. When he indicated towards moon was split into two pieces because it was an imperative policy. When he called the sun back, he had to come back after setting down, after dying down, because it falls under the policy, imperative policy. This is why they were not in position to violate the order, to disobey the order. They had to carry out the order by Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ. So, under this very principle, the infidels of Mecca were in position to use their option, but Quran says, since you are not in position to understand the material without the relationship of the language, therefore we translated it into your own language. And since Nabi Kareem ﷺ is the prophet of the total universe, according to the law, he should be in position to know all of the languages spoken in the world are going to be spoken in the world. So when Nabi Kareem ﷺ is in position to know all of the languages without any teacher, it means that this is also unseen secret which is already known by Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ. And this is why Nabi Kareem ﷺ was not in need of any translators, any interpreter. Whenever a person would come to Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ, he used to communicate his message by himself. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن. Oh my Holy Prophet, we are going to explain one of the best story. Sons was the same person, and his education was with equality. Just like a rain comes down, and it is scattered on the earth. But action and reaction is always according to the capacity. When the same water comes on the ground, different type of reactions are being observed. The good lands, the fertile lands, always grow the best vegetables, the crops, the corns, and on the other way, the barren lands cannot provide anything. So the rain was the equal, the water was the equal, the material was the same, but the two types of reactions were seen there. O my Holy Prophet, you are rain of my blessing, and you are raining over all of the universe, but different types of reaction are being seen. Just like Siddiq Akbar is reacting, he is completely submissive to you. He is completely obedient to you. Farooq Azam radiyallahu ta'ala is also accustomed to the obedience, and Ali Murtaza and Osman Ghani, all of them are without question, you are obedient. This is the reaction which is shown by them. And in the same city, in the same area, Abu Jahl is also residing, Utbah is also residing, and other people are also residing, but they are showing different type of reaction. It is not your shortcoming, it is not your fault. This is the fault of their absorption, because they have got a barren land which cannot properly react. Just like Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was giving the lecture, was giving the sermons, was delivering the sermons to all his offspring with the equal way, with the same methodology, at the same time, but different types of reactions were seen there. This is main point of the Ahsan al-Qasas, the best story. Then two types of character were shown there. One are relying upon the constitution of conspiracy, devising of evil devices, and the other one is completely putting his trust in Allah. He is entrusting himself with Allah Rabbul Izzat, and leaves himself and his prosperity and his benefit and his interest under the control of Allah Rabbul Izzat. And the other people are not relying upon the decision of Allah, divine rule, or the instructions of the Prophet, or the precept of the Prophets. They are trying to constitute their own conspiracy, but the end shows that who is in the right. So this is another point for being best story. This is the end of my lecture today, and in the last I would like to ask favor of Allah Rabbul Izzat for all of the Muslims, for the Muslim world, and may Muslim be able to follow the Sunnah of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. May Muslim unite under the flag of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. And especially I shall pray for the manager of the Pakistan TV who are communicating the Islamic message in whole of the world, and they are serving very much. May they make progress in every respect, and may they be rewarded by Allah Rabbul Izzat. Ameen, summa ameen, wa ma alayna इल्लल बलागुल मुबीन व आखिरु दावाना अनिल हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला रसूलिल करीम वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन रहमतुल्लाह।